of Team A. 4 minutes. Yes.
Your Honors, I believe that this is a fantastic way to promote CEB within our community, because not only are we helping our community grow, we are also employing open-mindedness within our community. This is a great opportunity for us to be able to open our minds and our thoughts to others so that we can further communicate and like process through like a lot of the feelings that we've been feeling about gender equality through these last few years. This is a great opportunity to spread our beliefs and to understand each other better, because I feel like a lot of the problems between gender equality is miscommunication. The thing that they mentioned in the proposal was the fact that they would be focusing on the less fortunate community, which I think is amazing, because this shows that they are trying to bridge the gap between not only gender, but also through like communities and social status. For as long as we can remember, the gap between men and women, so the gender age gap, has been a really big problem. There's been no doubt that it's been getting better, but we still have a very long way to go socially wise. According to NBC News, it only became legal for Latino women to vote in 1975. That was only 48 years ago. That's not that long ago if you really think about it. And these programs would further promote the historical understanding, such as the fact that we weren't able to vote that long ago. We would be able to reach out to those who may not know anything about this. For example, I didn't know that we weren't able to vote until 1975. This is very shocking to me as well. I do believe that much of our history is another reason why we haven't taken we have taken this long to progress in our social status. These programs would be committed to really expanding our understanding and the community's extending. These programs would be committed to funding and providing resources for our community. I believe that a strong thing that we struggle with is the fact that our elders and our like adult community is not, they were brought up with different beliefs than we were. They were brought up being taught different things about gender equality, and these don't only focus on youth. These focus on everyone in the community. And so I think this would be an amazing opportunity for those who maybe weren't brought up with these things to be able to learn from us, from the younger community who have grown up like this. I also mentioned that reaching out to those who are maybe less fortunate is an amazing opportunity, because I don't believe this is definitely a program and a nonprofit-based thinking, because we would be using people from our community as educators and as volunteers, and we would be using people who are strongly passionate about this stuff and are willing to do it just because it is what they believe in. This proposal focuses not just on our youth, but on our elders too, like I mentioned earlier, and I just think that that is the biggest asset to this, because we need to promote not just understanding in our youth, but to every single person in our community. And I believe that this is an amazing proposal, and that we really need to promote further gender equality, and that is why I believe you should go through with this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. The court will now be hearing opening arguments conducted by Team B. You have 4 minutes and start your meeting.
Good evening, Your Honors. Today, I am here to strongly urge you to not pass this proposal that states that it will build a more understanding Latino community, because of the simple and sole fact that this proposal is extremely unreliable and vague. For an issue this serious, we as a community deserve something that has specific guidelines and standards, because for this serious of an issue, we cannot just wing it. We need something specific, or this will not have a long-lasting impact, just as is stated in community equity building. The sole purpose of community equity building is to have a long-lasting impact. So how are we as a community supposed to do this when the proposal is vague and unrealistic? Once again, the verbiage of this proposal is very unspecific, and it mentions testing centers. We do not know what it means by testing centers. We do not know what the diverse education programs mean. We don't know what specifically will be taught in these curriculums, and we don't know that this will not be biased in a way that will negatively affect our Latino community. This proposal, once again, does not state the curriculum that it has, and volunteers are not a reliable way to keep this big of a program up and running. Once again, volunteers such as teachers, educators, and even debaters, as mentioned in this program, are not capable enough to have an impact on this big of an issue. Once again, we need gender ideology professors. We need registered students and people who have gone through years and years of training in order to speak on this topic for it to have an actual effect on our students. 40% of what students learn is forgotten. That is 40%. Nearly half of everything they are taught is completely forgotten. So if we do not even have professional educators to teach this sort of matter, how are we going to ensure that this rate doesn't increase more? How do we know that these students will forget 100% of what they've learned? And for this serious of a topic, we need a more specific proposal. Once again, this is not going in alignment with community equity building because it is not building our social capacity as a community. Once again, by making itself so unreliable, how do we expect students to return and make an impact or even understand what they are taught? Once again, this program will not be able to address the global wage gap that Latina women face. Latina women make 54 cents for every dollar of their white non-Hispanic male counterpart. How are we, as a community, supposed to use a vague and unrealistic proposal to tackle a corporate and global issue? Once again, this is not an issue that can be solved with volunteers. This is a program that needs to be further expanded on, which is why this program should not be passed into bill. Once again, this program is specifically not community equity building because it does not actively engage our own community in fixing the wage gap and instead turns to corporations for solutions or even fixing the entire problem. We as a community are able to use our own assets such as education in order to make a different proposal work, and it will have a better and more meaningful impact on not only our community but the global region. By allowing Latinos to become part of a front organization and giving them the outreach through a different means that is more reliable, we will be able to help decrease the effects of gender inequality. Once again, we urge you to side with us. Thank you, judges.
Thank you. The justices will now have 4 minutes to prepare questions for both teams. Time starts now. The court will now conduct 8 minutes of questioning for Team B. Firstly, I would like to start. So I wonder, what does this proposal do to bridge gaps between not only gender, but age and social? Yeah.
Can you please restate?
How does this bridge gender, social, and age gaps? Or how could it affect these?
This proposal, first of all, it's severely unreliable. And this cannot, without professionals teaching our youth about the gender stereotypes of today, we can't rely on them to, for example, raise the corporate prices that they're paying women. I'll restate the statistic that my partner stated. Latino women make only 54 cents per every dollar of their white, non-Hispanic male counterparts. This is almost half of the dollar. Now, without the professionals, with using volunteers and debaters to teach this to our youth, that's an unreliable source. We need professionals who are educated in the gender ideology to teach our youth a reliable way to take care of these issues at the source. And we can't assume that corporations will raise the prices that they pay women just off of our volunteers and debaters' word.
Would you say that the current gender equality system is bad in our society? And if so, what would be the main deficits?
So, I'm not saying that this issue is, this is an issue. This is a global issue. However, the way that this proposal states, it's too unspecific. We can't rely on this, and we need to be able to, I'm sorry, can you restate?
Do you think the current gender equality system in our society is good or bad? And if it's bad, what would be the deficits? And if it's good, what would be the good terms?
So the deficits, I actually have some statistics for that. About 53% of Latinas are pregnant before the age of 20, and that is over half of Latinas in our community. Now, this is something that we can't, like I said, we can't teach based off of debaters and volunteers. This is something that needs to be taught to our youth by professionals to create a reliable source of information, if that answers your question.
Your partner mentioned that this is a proposal we do not use. How does this do not encourage risk-taking where failure is not negative but part of the learning process?
We can't rely on something this vague to solve this big of an issue. This is a global issue, like I said, and this is too unreliable to further, this is strictly against community equity building because it will not create a long-lasting effect due to the fact that, like I said, we're using volunteers and debaters, and the fact that they could use their own personal agendas to teach based off of, since there's no curriculum outline in the proposal. They can teach whatever they feel like. So how is this a reliable source to teach our youth?
Your partner stated in your speech that our community isn't a reliable source to educate our community about social issues about sexism. So why is that? Why can't we educate each other about sexism?
So I believe our community can. However, we need professionals. We can use our education assets within our own community to teach our youth about this. Education assets within our professors and our teachers, but not getting volunteers that aren't educated in this. It doesn't state that in the proposal that these volunteers and debaters are educated in this topic, so we can't rely on them to teach our youth how to solve these problems in our everyday world.
Do you think this is a deficit-based proposal, and why? I do believe this is a deficit-based proposal, due just to the fact of how vague it is, and that that there's no curriculum stated. And it only focuses on our lack of, or our gender stereotypes within the community, and doesn't focus on our assets. I'd like to say that we should focus on our education assets to solve this problem globally in different Latinx communities around the world. But this proposal doesn't specifically state any of those things. So that is my answer.
Do you believe that because this is a global problem, it is going against community equity building?
Since this is a global problem, I don't believe it's going against community equity building. However, I believe that the way that this proposal states it is against it. Because we can solve this issue through community equity building. However, it is like I said, it is a global issue, and we can solve it with community equity building. However, since this proposal is so vague and unreliable, we can't rely on just this proposal to solve this global issue. We need a global impact to support this.
Are there any positive aspects of machismo in the Hispanic community?
Can you please clarify what machismo is?
Machismo is toxic masculinity in the Hispanic community.
And can you please restate the question?
Yes. Are there any positive aspects of toxic masculinity?
I don't believe so. I actually have a statistic for that. And this is a trigger warning to everyone in the room. Men who have traits of toxic masculinity are 240% times more likely to die by suicide. And another statistic I have, in Latin America, an average of 8 men commit suicide due to toxic masculinity. So this is something that we need to teach globally due to the fact that it is apparent throughout the world and in Latin America, if that answers your question.
In which way the proposal can follow the CEV basic number 2? Actively engage the community in the problem solving and opportunity building process if patriarchy is a social problem.
It doesn't specifically state the curriculum that should be taught in these classes. So teachers can teach whatever they want based off of this proposal, if that's straight what we're going from. And this is against community equity building because it won't have a long-lasting impact. It's time.
Thank you. The court will now make 4 minutes of questioning for today. I apologize, 8 minutes. So I wonder, how will you ensure that whoever is educating these Latinx people about the topic is teaching them the correct way, correct gender equality?
I believe that the experts and the debaters and the teachers in the Latino community will teach the youth Latino how to gender equality in the Latino community, because I know as an individual, I want to see the Latino community grow, and I want to see the Latino community equal. So I know that they will try their best to make sure that the Latino community gets the right information and the right education they need to make sure that the gender equality problem gets fixed in the Latino community.
Taking into account that the education will be given to underdeveloped sectors with toxic masculinity, machismo, and toxic stereotypes, how will the program help change the whole household's beliefs that come from generations and generations?
I believe that if you teach one generation this, it will be passed down generation to generation. Because as a kid, my parents always tell me how I need to treat others. how I need to treat women. So I believe that parents will teach other kids, and people will also tell their friends and their family. And that's why I believe that this message will be said throughout the Latino community.
How may this proposal create a collaborative atmosphere where diversity is taken into account?
Can you say that again, please?
How may this proposal create a collaborative atmosphere where diversity is taken into account?
Can you elaborate on that?
Okay. And how can we make sure diversity is taken into account in this proposal?
I believe that diversity is being taken into account in this proposal because we're teaching everyone, it doesn't matter what ethnicity, we're teaching everyone how gender equality needs to start. Because if people see the Latino community is strong and we want to change now, we're trying to change now to make a better future for Latino community. They will see how strong we are and they will see how great the Latino community is.
How does educating our community about sexism and machismo create a new social paradigm?
It creates a new social paradigm because we're teaching each other the basics that we need for gender equality. We're teaching each other how we need to work together and how we need to make a better future for the Latino community. Because I believe that if we truly work together and we understand each other and we understand that we are all equal, we can create a better future for the Latino community. We can socialize more, we can teamwork more, and I feel like we can accomplish a lot more in the Latino community.
Okay, so what are the qualifications needed to hire educators for these programs?
I'd say that the qualifications needed to hire these teachers, these debaters, the experts, they need to know how and what, I need to know how to treat each other. I believe that at a young age, kids need to be taught teamwork, socialize, so they know that everyone is equal. Everyone needs to know that we're all the same at the end of the day. All Latinos are the same, all the communities are the same. That's what I believe we need to do to make sure that the Latino community can grow and be great.
So I have a question on how are you gonna ensure that people actually access to these classes?
Well, what I believe is, no matter what, I feel like we should do this proposal. I feel like this should be passed because if we don't start now, then when will we start? If we fail this proposal, then people are just gonna think of us as a community that can't do anything. So that's why that's why I believe that we need to start now. We need to work on this now so that we can make sure that this comes true and we can make our Latino community better.
Thank you.
Okay, so I understand that this proposal is for low-income people in the community, right? So, do you think that the education of the child will be affected because of their income, because they had external problems like debt and constant sacrifice?
Well, I believe that those students who can afford the education, they can teach their friends who can't afford it. Because I believe in the Latino community that we are friendly and we need to socialize more, we need to teamwork more. So if there's a student who can't afford the education, they can learn something from their friend, they can see a role model in the community and learn from them and learn how gender equality needs to be fixed in the Latino community.
To what extent does toxic stereotypes or machismo still exist in the Hispanic community?
There are, can you elaborate on that, please?
How is it still in our community? Give examples.
How is gender equality still in our community? It is still in our community because statistics show that 65% of Latinas make 65% of what Latinos make in the community. This shows that this needs to be fixed. We need to be equal. We need to make sure that all the community knows that we are all equal.
Would you say that this proposal is open to the wisdom?
And knowledge of people from other experiences and contexts.
Can you say that again, please? Sorry.
Would you say that this proposal is open to the wisdom and knowledge from people of other life experiences?
Yes, I would say that it is because even though we may have different backgrounds, we can still learn from one each other. And that's what I believe that we can do. We always want to make sure that we're constantly getting better or constantly looking to the future so we can improve ourselves in the Latino community. And I believe as an individual, I want to see my Latino community grow. And I believe that others do too. So they will constantly work to that, so we should get to that point in the Latino community.
So I have another question. I would like to ask you to elaborate on where the funding for this program will come from.
As a Latino individual, I want to make sure our Latino community grows. And in the proposal, it was stated that experts, debaters, and people who really believe in gender equality in the Latino community will help with this and fund this education for everyone that needs it. Everyone who wants it is interested in this.
I have another question. How do you think that this proposal can affect our social narrative?
I believe that it will affect our social narrative because it will teach others how we need to communicate to each other and how we need to understand each other because all of us are going through stuff. We need to make sure that we all understand each other because that's what I believe we need to do for the Latino community. Latino community has lots of struggles in business, etc., a lot of stuff. So I believe that if we need to communicate more to each other to really understand each other so we can make a better future for Latino community.
I have another question. It was stated on your introduction that you will provide resources. Who or what organization will be providing them?
I believe that there are people in the Latino community who believe that gender equality needs to be fixed. There's people all around the world who believe that needs to happen. So I believe those people are the ones that are going to be helping fund and teach and debate and experts to teach Latino community why they need to grow and why this needs to be fixed. If we don't start now, then when will we?
Can you please elaborate on how this will bridge gaps in society?
It will help bridge the gap in society because we are greatly affected by the great distance between what men and women can do. And I believe that we need to understand each other and we need to make sure that we all understand each other in order to make sure that we get to the point of a better future and that we can make the Latino community better.
I have another question. How do you plan on making sure that every volunteer who's teaching these youth are unbiased?
We can't make sure of that, but I believe that there are people who still want. I believe there is people and experts out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Attorneys, you now have 2 minutes to prepare for your closing argument. Time starts now. Delegates, we will now have 2 minutes. We will not be conducting a 2-minute closing statements led by Team A. I apologize, 4 minutes.
Your Honors, the other side made amazing points, but I would like to address them. They mentioned the fact that it is extremely vague, and I understand that. The proposal was pretty vague, but I believe that the reason why it's so vague is that we can really see what our community needs, so we can shape our curriculum to what it needs to be. I also believe that these testing centers are purely a way to just check up on how we're doing, to see if we need to change anything. And I also think that it's just a way to see if we have made a very big impact in the community yet. The volunteers volunteers are there because they are passionate about what they do and about what they believe in. So I believe that these wouldn't just be random people from off the street who don't believe in this, but they would be people who really think that this is something that we can change and that we do have a fighting chance at. And that's why I believe that having volunteers is not a deficit at all. I believe that people who are professionally trained in this area would have the mindset that we are trying here, so they would want to volunteer their time and their resources just to help us. My partner stated that an example could be that other communities would see the Latino community trying to solve this problem, and that they would see us as the community who's trying to fix a problem that not a lot of communities are trying to fix. It would put us at the upper hand. It would make other communities see us differently, because I believe the fact that we have this gender equality issue is a deficit. It shows other communities that we aren't able to solve it. We're not able to solve this problem, and they probably don't think that we can solve this problem if it's not being solved yet. My partner also brought up the fact that if we don't do it now, when will we? Like, this proposal, if it doesn't pass, people are just gonna think, if I try to make a proposal like this, it's just gonna get failed again. And this will not help our community move forward. We need to move forward instead of just standing where we are right now. We really need to take steps to further our education about gender equality. I also believe that it does promote all 5 of the CEB basics, because we are, first off, using our community's resources to better educate our community. We are using volunteers. We may have to have this funded for some purposes, but mostly it would be volunteers, because people who are that passionate are willing to help us. And also, we would also be building up our community. If we start now and start with our younger generation, and even our older generation who teach our younger generation, we would be starting the path that would build to the future. We'd be starting a new social narrative about gender equality in the Hispanic and Latino community, and I believe that that would be a massive asset to us. So, furthermore, I do think that the fact that we are trying to reach out to the less fortunate community where they may not be as well educated, specifically on this topic, is definitely one of the bigger assets, because change has to start somewhere, and if we need to start it in a place where they believe strictly against these, which some can be a deficit, but it can also be an asset, because we can change the minds of those people. We can really change their social narrative of us, and they can really start to believe that this is something we can accomplish together as a community. So this is why I strongly believe that this is an amazing proposal to pass, and that this will further our, this will further people's beliefs of us as a community, and that this is why we should pass it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Team B, you now have 4 minutes to present your closing statements. After our speakers.
Good evening, judges. Once again, I strongly urge you to not pass this proposal, not because it does not have a good intention, which it does, but because it will not have a big impact. We know, as we can see from this unspecific verbiage, that this proposal is not going to be reliable. We don't know the amount of volunteers that are even going to be needed to start this program. We don't know who is going to lead this program. We don't know who is going to make the curriculum for this program. Once again, it does not state how many participants are even going to be included in this program. So what's to say they don't even start with, say, just 10 participants? How long will it take for this program to actually have an impact that we deserve on our community? Once again, education is our asset, which is why we should be focusing more on school systems instead of a proposal that does not give us any specifics on how it is going to fix this big of an issue. Once again, this is a global issue, not something that can be addressed by a team of volunteers. Again, in the proposal, it is never directly stated that these volunteers would be professionals, and we can't expect these volunteers to want to volunteer forever. This program does not outline a payment plan or even a timeline for volunteers to work in. We don't know if this program would take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years to even get started and have a small impact. Once again, the community is going to educate us one way or the other, but it is not going to be through this proposal. Once again, this proposal wants to state monthly interviews to check in with people who are participating in the programs. It does not give any specifics on what data it is looking for, how they will conclude and organize this data to make sure that it really has had an impact. We need 100% of what these students are learning to be remembered so that we can align with community equity building and have a long-lasting impact. Once again, this does not follow Fundamental 2 of community equity building, which states to actively engage the community. 40% of what students learn is forgotten. That is 40%. So how is that actively engaging the community or even actively engaging just one person? This is too big of an issue to solely rely on volunteers and to solely rely on an unrealistic and uneducational proposal. Once again, I strongly urge you to not pass this proposal because it is not going to have a long-lasting impact, which is what gender inequality deserves. Without a long-lasting impact, how are we supposed to address the wage gap? How are we supposed to educate our youth so that they can continue a cycle of education and learning? We don't even know if participants will want to promote and go into this program. These are very serious issues and come with many serious topics for some students, and it doesn't state how we are going to convince students or how students will even actually want to learn this. This is an extremely important issue, and this proposal is too unreliable. Thank you, judges.
Thank you. Lead judges, apologize. The court will now recess for a 4-minute deliberation.
Y'all aren't going anywhere. Zavala Youth Legislative Session.
You may now be seated. After much deliberation, the winner of the 2023 Colorado Lorenzo de Zavala Youth Legislation Program will be announced tomorrow at the award ceremony.
All right, so we're gonna be moving back to the dorms now, and we're gonna be dismissing by dog groups. So if I can get all the senior counselors to the front of the room.